चैप्टर में एज यूजुअल थ्री पार्ट्स है. The first part is a story about how Sita has already been kidnapped by Ravan, and how Ram Lakshman start to uh, find her out, or just to seek her out. And it's a very it's a story that many people know, but again I've interpreted it based on how I felt it could have happened, if at all it had happened. So she just, she plucks her belongings, or like her earrings or whatever small accessories that she wears, and she just throws it in between, so that they know that these are her things. And basically they act like clues, and ultimately they reach a particular point. Then apparently there is a mystical mythological character which apparently uh, has a very big tussle with Ravan, and but that animal or that creature is not able to successfully free Sita from Ravana's clutches. But that animal decides that I'll just wait out for Ram. He tells Ram all the things that he needs to, and then the search continues. So it's a story that many people know about, but I've interpreted it in my own way. The second part of uh, the chapter is about uh, our favorite person Arvind, who wants to go to a particular place called Sita Gumfa, and finally they try to make up a plan. But when he tries to go and just tell his friends around, the main reaction of them is in disbelief that supposedly there is also a certain mystical mythological thing that has been propagated, or a story that has been propagated around that particular place, as a result of which many of his friends really detest the idea. But does he manage to convince them to go there? And it's just like a build up to that thing, and what the thing really is, and what that place is, and whether they go there, and what exactly do they find or see after going there, is in the subsequent chapter. So these are stories. I would rather not elaborate a lot on those stories, because उस पे भी elaborate करूंगा तो I'll be giving away certain important plots and points about the story. So I think we'll go to like we discussed in detail about the introduction. I think we'll discuss a major chunk of our discussion. Let's just revolve it around part C. So did you happen to read the part C, and how did you find it?
Yeah, part C was quite intriguing
Okay.
and in a lot of way quite relatable also and thought provoking as well. So one thing that you know, one thing that came into my mind while I started reading this part was so in this pandemic situation, everyone is at home locked in their houses, either alone or maybe with a family or maybe with people around who tend to uh, subject to abuse because there's a lot of domestic violence cases that has been going on. So a lot of things are happening over this lockdown. There is positive, there is negative. A lot of people are struggling with their mental health, and a lot of people are struggling with their physical health, and a lot of things. So while reading this one particular paragraph, you've talked about an anchor that everyone is in search of so that they can gain control of their mind, and which makes the abnormalities that is happening in their lives to be normal. मतलब अभी कुछ बुरा हो रहा है, so we have something to lean upon so that we are, you know, mentally stable and mentally sane. So I think this particular thought is quite relevant for a lot of people who have been struggling to maintain their mental health during this lockdown, because this 4 5 months have been probably the most difficult 4 5 months for a lot of people, especially people who are living alone without family, and especially people who are living with uh, abusive partners or abusive
Hmm.
friends or boyfriends or husbands, whatever. So husbands or wife. So yeah, it's been difficult for these people. So the anchor word that you've used, I think I could really relate it to those situations per se, especially in the lockdown situation. So what do you want to say about that?
Interesting and too real and too relevant.
Yeah.
So okay, so I'll take certain references from the like the portion of the like the part C of the chapter that we are discussing, and then I'll take it from there on.
Hmm.
Um, so we all are aware of the like the Battle of Mahabharata or the Epic of Mahabharata. Like we may not be aware of the nitty-gritties or the so-called details of the story, which
Mhm.
is popular in the normal consensus or the normal public out there. But so what happens is, let's take a step back and just try to think about what the epics stand for, the epics of Ramayana, Mahabharata, or even the Dashavatar that is very much prominent in the Hindu mythology or the Hindu philosophy. And each one of them tells us a story. The story tries to tell us or presents us with a certain moral, and
Hmm.
the moral brings you closer to a particular truth which may be right under our nose, or which human beings know that it exists there, but they want to disregard it in every aspect possible, right? So,
Hmm.
for example, um, like if you take the epic of Narasimha, right? So the lion-headed god that is there, one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu. So we don't really need to go into the archaeological evidences, and you might not even find any, and it could
Hmm.
be a true story or false. But principally, what that story represents is that if a normal human being, by virtue of his or her hard work, reaches a particular point, but if they lose sight of the larger goal, which was initially self development, but later on it became about how powerful and how worthy I am, then
Hmm.
you are destined to doom, or you are destined to get doomed in the most unpredictable, funny, weird way, and you'll be caught off guard when you expect the least.
Right.
Because what the for people who don't know the story, and I'll try to recollect whatever story I can in a very few sentences. The story goes that there is a particular boy, and I think he is the son of a prominent king, and the king is, I think, an Asura king, but the boy is uh, like he's a bhakt or he's a devotee of Lord Vishnu. But his father, the king of the Asuras, if I may call him that, is so involved into his own fortunes and his own wealth and his own power and whatever, that he starts abusing Lord Vishnu. And the kid is like, please don't do that. I mean, he's the Lord for a reason, and you don't really need to challenge the Lord. Like, if you don't like him, it's okay, but you don't need to abuse him on every step of your way, or
Right.
in every step of your life, which is
Hmm.
logical. Because like if you don't like someone, but if that person is more powerful than you might as well respect that person, as long as that person doesn't get involved with you, which is
Hmm.
very logical and practical. But this guy is like, no, I'll make sure that you know Vishnu comes to me begging for whatever, my mercy, whatever. So I think what
Hmm.
happens is, the king one fine day gets so frustrated with his kid that I think he is about to kill his own son, the kid, just so that he can invoke Lord Vishnu, or he can provoke Lord Vishnu into actually appearing in front of him.
Hmm.
But in the meantime, what happens is he gets a blessing from, say, Lord Brahma or Lord Shankara or whatever, that he can't be killed by anyone, neither a living being nor a dead person, or especially not a human being, not an animal, not in the daytime, not in the night time. But what he forgets is that every law has an exception, and rules can be tweaked around. So the story goes that Lord Vishnu appears in the form of a Narasimha. Nara is the human, Simha is the lion. So the head of the lion, body of a human. He comes to this king's palace, and in the evening time, when the sun is just set, but there is natural light out there, he appears and he brings that person on his lap. And so the one aspect of the blessing that Asura king receives is that no artificial weapon can be used. So this Narasimha has fingernails, and he just uh, like literally he destroys his stomach and whatever, tears apart his stomach, and then that's how this king dies. So the thing that I'm trying to say is that what this tale actually tells us is that too much power gone into a person's head is never good, and a balance of everything should always be maintained at any cost. And if that balance is not maintained by a particular community or a clan of people, then the onus is upon the so-called wise one who understands that what will happen if the balance goes. And that again is connected to the concept of search. That the search should also be about whether there is a balance. Because, for example, take today's time, like all these times that we are living in, right? The corona pandemic and everything. It's debatable whether it's actually caused by bats or whether a certain country was involved in its generation or whatever. Let's not go there. But then, if you consider that, like what has happened post industrialization is the natural balance of the environment has shifted, as a result of which organisms and ecosystems thriving in particular place for thousands and lakhs of years suddenly have been disrupted. And as the famous saying goes, that if a butterfly flutters its wings here in one part of the world, in the other part of the world, a cyclone will get created.
Yeah.
Right. So, and so everything in the world is related. And by this logic, if you think that, or if any person for that matter thinks that uh, a balance of power not maintained, if it's good for me, then I don't care about what the world thinks about it or how the world will get affected. No, eventually you yourself will get affected in return. If not you, then future generations of you, right? And coming back to Mahabharat, this exactly, again, it's debatable whether it actually happened, didn't happen, but let's consider all these to be stories, right? So it is said that Lord Krishna single-handedly devised the entire framework of Mahabharata and how things would happen, because he had realized that the balance of power was too much into the hands of an elite few, which was completely causing the I mean, which was completely imbalancing the nature or environment in itself. And hence, he planted the seed of agony into Shakuni's head. And, or maybe you can take it a further step back. And like he traced and he narrated the entire story, or he frameworked the entire story in such a way that it was exactly how things would happen. But here's the thing, right? So the story is weaved in such a beautiful way that during the battle of Mahabharata, when Arjun is faced by his own relatives, and when because Arjun was that person from the previous generation, like we talked about, wherein up till that point, all he had to do was just act out whatever was told or whatever was presented. But there came that one point wherein he started thinking, but he thought so much because there was a lot to think about. Like he couldn't actually start killing his own cousins because Pandavas and Kauravas cousins on opposite
Person.
on the battleground at that moment. One would kill the other, so both of them had to, just tighten their bows and arrows and be ready to aim.
Hmm.
So at that time, since Krishna was the person who was guiding the chariot because didn't wanted to get involved in the battle actually because he wanted to be fair to both the teams. At that point, Arjun realized that it was better that I wasn't thinking because I'm thinking and within 2 seconds, my entire world is shattering inside my own head. Like I
Hmm.
really don't know what to do. And if you as Krishna, you really are one of my brothers, but you also are supposedly a reincarnation of Lord Vishnu. So you are the Lord himself. And you are telling me to kill my own cousins. This is ridiculous and absurd to no extent. And you are telling me that this is actually the wise thing to do. Nothing can be more absurd than that. And it
Hmm.
was at that point that Krishna told him that, see, the point of existence is equally about carrying out your duty as much as it is about thinking what the right and wrong thing is. And most importantly, he also told him that since you ask me now, certain things are required to happen at certain intervals of time in order to restore the balance of the universe. But then
Hmm.
Arjuna was like, then what is the futile? I mean, this entire exercise is so futile. Like, if you knew everything, then why did you leave us searching for all the answers? Why were we subjected to so much trauma and agony, in spite of being princes? So basically, we were prince, then we had to go through all the agony. And if as if that agony was not enough, now you're making us to fight with each other. And we all know that someone will die. And even if the sect of or the community of people or the group of people who live will eventually be in so much sorrow that they will not be able to enjoy the riches properly. So, what is the purpose of this entire exercise? So, that
Hmm.
is when Krishna told him that now I'm going to tell you the ultimate truth of life from the point of view of a human being, and that is to search for what you want.
Hmm.
And you are privileged enough that I'm telling you to search for what you are and why you are here. But the problem with 99.99% humans is that because of circumstances, I mean circumstantially, they are not in that privileged position wherein they can think as to why they were here or what their purpose is. And when they start to find out these answers, it's already too late. So then Arjuna said, but this doesn't help me. Like no matter how much I think, I will never know why I was here. So at that time, Krishna tells him that this search is about you finding that peace of mind in the most difficult of circumstances. And this search needs to be executed by every human being alive so as to understand what their connection with the universe is. Because for the longest time, like in even when we are alive,
Hmm.
for there are hardly any seconds when we realize that we are actually a part of nature. Because our brains
Yeah.
especially are so evolved, we always think that we are different from the nature. And Arjuna was like, okay, fine, but then why is there so much pain and misery? Like, why is our great grandfather Bhishma, like he takes an example of Bhishma and tells him that uh, he has been living for like 175 years, and you as the Lord have blessed him with an ability to make him choose whenever he wants to die and the moment of that death. So technically, he is Amar
Hmm.
or a person who can't be killed by anyone unless he wants to die on his own. But even he is not happy.
Hmm.
So then, what is exactly this entire exercise? Why are we even subjected to it? I mean, you are not answering my question at all. And Krishna tells him that it is not my job to answer your question. It is my job to make you search. Whatever you find or don't find is not up to me. But you undertaking that exercise is much more important, right? And uh, so, what a person like me takes from this entire story is that there are three kinds of people. One is people who live only in their physical existence,
Hmm.
school, college, job, whatever, retirement and death. There are others who are extreme level thinkers or philosophers who don't care much about their physical existence. But what a person like me takes away from this entire exercise or this entire story is that when you search a lot, that is only when you will realize the importance of a balance. And that is something that is very crucial for everyone, but nobody really talks about it, right? Even in our places of employment, just to give us a sweet carrot that we can never eat, they always talk about work life balance, but they are not really concerned about our mental well being or uh, how good we manage to juggle work and life. All they care about is how beautifully we juggle the different projects that we are given one after the other, right?
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that is
The
actually one of the other issues right now, especially in the work from home scenario. People are actually working 15, 17 hours, more than
right,
that.
right, right.
Mm.
So, like Krishna, again, a very famous verse which many people attribute to Krishna, and let's assume that it is Krishna who actually spoke it out loud. The verse goes like Karmanye ka vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So the simple meaning of that is that the sense of balance should always prevail in the most trying of circumstances. And additionally, in that context, a person should always execute their duties as mere duties, not getting attached to them in a positive or a negative way. But what happens is in today's times, we are so much in need of the reward system. Na? Like Paytm से bill भरो तो 10 रुपए cashback मिलेगा. Or if you
Mm.
spend this much, you will get a this much cashback. Or if you shop from us for this much long time, you will get 2 shirts free. It's all about
Mm.
feedbacks and it's all about lucrative deals. So people are indirectly compelled to engage with that organization or entity much more.
Right.
Whereas in reality, a person like me thinks that even in these things, a sense of balance should always prevail. Because if that sense of balance prevails, you know what you want, you know how much you want, and you know if you really want that thing. And for that, you again have to ask yourself whether I really need to do this. So basically, when I say search, it's basically a dialogue that you need to have a very healthy dialogue with your own self. But that is later. First need to start having a dialogue with your own self, which people in today's time lack. Because the thing that you mentioned, the domestic violence and um, the pandemic taking toll on people's health. Well, it's true. We all have our moments of weakness, probably on a weekly basis. But like I'll tell you from my own experience, before the lockdown happened, I wasn't in touch with a lot of things or abilities that I knew existed in me. Like for the
Mm.
longest time, I was not reading books. But the moment the pandemic happened, I focused my attention on reading because we all, like I said in the starting of the podcast, we all know the right thing that should be done, but we never do that.
Mm.
So if domestic violence is happening, if cases of misunderstanding and mental issues are happening, I wouldn't disrespect people facing mental issues, but more importantly, if they really want to help themselves, I mean, first that person should want to help his or her own self, and then comes the picture of someone else helping you out, right? The first barrier
Mm.
you have to break on your own. And I think for that, what we need to do is we need to pursue certain things which make us happy. It could be anything. The problem is we don't know what things really make us happy. Like for me, music and reading have been ensuring that I am getting through all these things. It could be different for different people, but people don't want to know what they really like. Maybe it is because of a lack of choice, or maybe because people are too lethargic to even find out what they really like, which I think is very bad. And cultivating, again, it boils down to having a thought with your own self, right? So, cultivating certain habits which will make you happy is also, these are mental patterns, and a person needs to understand his or her own mental patterns. If we know that this thing is making me unhappy, but then what is actually making me happy? And so I should be doing this. These things should be thought about on a much genuine level, because I truly believe that if you're not willing to help your own self, unfortunately, the world that we live in, nobody else will be bothered about what you feel. And nobody in this entire world is entitled, or they are compelled by certain unknown force in this universe to make sure that you are happy. Nobody owes happiness to anyone. We owe our own happiness to our own selves. So I think a problem with this generation also is that we seek too much validation outward, when we should actually be looking for things which would help us to validate our own selves and which would make us happy. Because people are so used to external communication, seeing things on the screen, talking with people on the topics that they like. But I think we also need to look about whether we are having the right mindset, and consider this as a blessing in disguise to just reboot our thought process if we really are required to. Because everyone is on the edge, but to think that this particular thing is the worst phase in the world in the last 100 years is an exaggeration by miles. Like in the last 100 or 200 years, people all over the world, or even in a country like India that we live in, have gone through much worse. But many of them still managed, and they managed because they had a certain thought process. And I also think, in the context of search that we are talking about, we should also search in the past, because history or past is like a mirror. It tells you where you could be, and it tells you where you should be. So it also gives you reference points. So I think we should also search the history or past and find for reference points wherein how people who suffered from worse or much, much worse situations, pandemics, wars, how they felt, how they thought, and what things did they do to make sure that they were successfully out of that tricky and messy situation. So, yeah, I mean, to sum up, I would say these times are pretty good for self-development. And self-development again happens when you search within. And it's a scary place, because if we aren't used to uh, uh, going into our own thought process, then it could become like a well, and then people are not very comfortable there. But uh, the sooner we start to search for things that we don't know our mind has within itself, the more gravity or the more depth we all would be having uh, in our behavior or in our character in general. So to sum up, I can only say that the times that we live in, these definitely are worse times, but disguised, disguised worse times, which actually can serve us a lot in good manner. As usual, we have color coordinated, or rather theme coordinated, if I may say.
Not color coordinated, yeah, theme coordinated.
Yeah.
Yours
Theme
is
coordinated.
mine.
Huh. Just do this so that the theme
promoting
for
today.
yeah. So the theme for today's t-shirts is Friends the TV show, because why not? Everyone loves Friends. So जो कि अब थोड़ा सा जोश आ गया है, because we had a heavy dinner at our respective places, and थोड़ा सा energy हमारी down थी, but we are up and running.
Yes.
So
हमको दिन भर में कोई टाइम नहीं मिलता है, so we have to choose the night time. We are slowly
we
becoming
burn the midnight laptop.
Yeah.
That is how हम podcast record करते हैं.
काफी पका लिया है हमने अभी.
Yes.
Let's move on to the main content.
Yes. Please, let's do that. So
जैसे हमारा previous episodes गया है, इस episode में भी हम Roots in Oblivion नाम का एक बहुत ही बेहतरीन book का डिस्कस करेंगे. बुक को डिस्कस करेंगे, सॉरी.
बुक है, कैसा है? आप पॉडकास्ट सुनो, किताब खरीदो और बताओ हमको फटाफट.
Amazon में अवेलेबल है, Kindle version also.
As usual, the links are in the description, so do check it out. And yes, so Swasti,